The Intergalactic Peace Summit was held once every century, bringing together representatives from across the vast galaxy. Thousands of species, each unique in their appearance and way of life, gathered in the Grand Hall, a magnificent structure built into a floating asteroid, held together by advanced technology. The summit was a place where ancient races and newly emerged civilizations met to discuss matters of peace, trade, and mutual cooperation. But despite the grandeur of the event, there was a sense of unease hanging in the air, especially among the alien delegates. Today, something was different. Among the many delegates, there was one human, Ambassador Emma Calloway. She stood tall at the podium, her expression calm but her eyes sharp. It was her first time attending such a summit, and the pressure on her was immense. Humanity was still a relatively new member of the galactic community. Most of the more established races thought of humans as an unpredictable species, a relatively young civilization that hadn't yet learned to control their impulses. The hall was filled with whispers. The Vaktar, a reptilian race known for their extreme patience, hissed among themselves, exchanging glances. The Zorathians, a race of tall, silver-skinned beings, looked down from their high seats, unmoved by anything that occurred outside their circle. The Shintari, a species of living energy beings, seemed disinterested, their forms shifting in ever-changing patterns of light. Then there were the humans, simple but capable. Emma adjusted her suit, a sleek, silver outfit that reflected the starlight streaming in from the asteroid's windows. She had practiced this speech for weeks. Her mind was calm, but her heart beat a little faster. This speech would determine whether humanity was truly accepted into the galactic community, or if they would be left behind. The speaker system hummed to life, and the assembly quieted. Emma Calloway was ready. Honorable delegates of the Galactic Council, she began, her voice clear and confident. I stand before you today to discuss something very important, a truth that may be uncomfortable for some, but one that cannot be ignored. She paused, letting the weight of her words settle in the air. I am here to talk about humanity's potential, the potential that has made us both respected and feared across the galaxy. The room fell silent. The Vaktar, who had been skeptical of her presence, stiffened. The Zorathians, never showing much emotion, suddenly grew tense. Emma's eyes scanned the room, noticing the shift. Humanity, she continued, is not like any race you've encountered before. We are a species of contradiction. We are capable of great compassion, but also of great violence. We build civilizations, but we also destroy them. We create peace, but we are also capable of great chaos. A murmur ran through the crowd. Emma could feel the weight of their judgment, but she didn't flinch. She'd expected this. Humanity was not like the peaceful, ancient races that filled the summit. They were young and full of fire, both in mind and in spirit. We do not have the longevity of some species, she said, her tone unwavering. But what we do have is something far more dangerous, unlimited potential. When humans are pushed to their limits, when they are forced into a corner, they do not crumble. They rise. Emma's words were calculated, but she knew they would not be easy for the other delegates to hear. The Shintari, who were composed of pure energy, shimmered more brightly. The Zorathians, always calm, exchanged uncertain glances, and the Vaktar seemed to regard her with a mixture of amusement and doubt. I stand here to warn you, Emma continued. When humans are pushed to the edge, when we go berserk, nothing can stop us. Not technology, not weapons, not even the gods. The room fell deathly quiet. A soft hum filled the air as the delegates absorbed her words. Some reacted with disbelief, while others seemed genuinely disturbed by what Emma was suggesting. For the first time in the summit's history, fear was palpable in the hall. I know this is hard to understand, Emma said, her voice steady. It's hard to believe that a species so young, so unpredictable, could hold such power. But I am telling you now from personal experience that if you push humanity too far, if you force us into a corner with no escape, you will regret it. There was a long silence, the delegates exchanging glances. The Vokhtar delegate, a tall figure with scales that shimmered in the light, stood and spoke, his voice slow and deliberate. "Ambassador Calloway, you speak of chaos," the Vokhtar said, his tone dismissive. "But we have seen civilizations far older than yours fall into ruin. How do you expect us to believe that humanity's unstable nature is something we should fear?" Emma didn't hesitate. "You're right to question me. But you must understand, humanity's greatest strength is in our unpredictability. We do not follow the rules that the galaxy has set, and that is why we are dangerous." The room buzzed with conversation as the Vokhtar returned to his seat. The Zorethians, who had been silent until now, exchanged a quiet but intense conversation among themselves. The Shintari pulsed with energy, their form flickering like a distant star. Emma watched them all carefully. She had expected this kind of resistance. But she wasn't finished. "Humanity's presence here today is not a mistake," she said, her voice rising. "We are here because we have the ability to adapt, to evolve, and to overcome. If we can learn to control our power, we will be an invaluable asset to this council. But if we cannot, then we will be a threat." She let those words hang in the air as the delegates sat in stunned silence. Emma knew this was just the beginning. The real test was yet to come. But she had made her point, and in the deep, silent corners of the galactic hall, there was no denying it. Humanity was a force to be reckoned with. The air in the grand hall of the Intergalactic Peace Summit felt charged, like a storm was brewing on the horizon. Ambassador Emma Calloway's warning had struck a chord with the delegates. Some were unsettled, others were openly skeptical. But one thing was clear: the human presence at the summit would not be ignored. As the murmurs of conversation echoed throughout the chamber, Emma stood confidently at the podium, waiting for the next moment to arrive. The tension in the air was thick, and she could almost feel the weight of the galaxy's eyes on her. The stakes were high, and she knew that one wrong move could push humanity into the darkness of suspicion, perhaps even rejection from the Galactic Council. The Zorethians, long known for their calm and logical demeanor, were now whispering among themselves. Their silver skin shimmered under the light as their eyes, sharp and calculating, focused on Emma. The Shintari, who often seemed indifferent to matters of politics, now pulsated with flashes of energy, indicating they were deep in thought. The Vokhtar, with their reptilian features, exchanged low growls, clearly unnerved by what they had just heard. Emma knew she had made an impression, but the question was, had she made the right one? After a long silence, the first delegate stood. It was Karkor, the leader of the Zorethian delegation. He was a tall being, with elongated limbs and a face that looked almost like a living sculpture of silver. His voice, when he spoke, carried the weight of centuries of wisdom. "Ambassador Calloway," Karkor began, his voice cool and steady, "you claim that humanity's power is something to be feared. That is a bold statement. However, I would ask you to prove it. If you truly believe that humanity's unpredictable nature is something that should concern us all, then perhaps you can show us that which you describe." Emma's heart skipped a beat. She had expected questions, but not this kind of challenge. The Zorethians were not known for their impulsiveness. Yet here they were, openly daring her to back up her words. The room fell silent, every eye now focused on Emma. The challenge was clear. Humanity needed to prove itself, not just through words, but through action. "I accept your challenge," Emma said, her voice unwavering. "We will demonstrate humanity's strength, but we will do so not with violence or chaos. Instead, we will show you our ability to overcome obstacles, even when pushed to the edge." The atmosphere in the room shifted. Some delegates exchanged uncertain glances, while others appeared intrigued. The Vokhtar delegate, a figure with a long tail and sharp scales, sneered, clearly unimpressed by the human ambassador's calm response. "You are overconfident, human," the Vokhtar delegate said, his voice thick with disdain. "It is one thing to speak of power, but it is quite another to demonstrate it. Can your species truly stand up to the might of the galaxy's oldest and most powerful races? Emma's eyes narrowed, but she held her ground. The Vokhtar's words were meant to provoke her, but she had trained for this moment. She knew what humanity was capable of, even if the galaxy did not yet understand. "We will stand," Emma replied firmly, "and we will rise to meet whatever challenge you set before us." Without another word, the Zorathian council leader signaled for a special demonstration to take place, a simulation designed to test the strength and resilience of different species under pressure. A large holographic map flickered to life in front of the assembly, displaying a neutral planet that had no allegiance to any particular race. The simulation would simulate a crisis, an attack from an unknown force. The delegates would need to defend the planet and its people. The catch was that the simulation would include not just military strength, but also the need for strategic thinking, diplomacy, and leadership in the face of overwhelming odds. Emma glanced around the room, feeling the weight of the moment. This was it, humanity's chance to prove itself. The simulation began. Emma's team of human officers, all highly trained and resourceful, immediately sprang into action. The Vokhtar, with their reptilian precision, organized their forces quickly, ready to strike with the cold efficiency they were known for. The Shintari, using their energy-based forms, manipulated the environment itself to create barriers and shields. The Zorathians, masters of tactics and discipline, directed their fleets with careful precision, making sure no mistake was made. And then there was the human team. At first glance, they seemed out of place in the midst of such advanced species, but Emma knew better than anyone. Humanity's strength wasn't just in their technology. It was in their resourcefulness, creativity, and willpower. As the simulation unfolded, Emma's team found themselves facing a series of unexpected challenges. The enemy force, which had been designed to be overwhelming, began launching surprise attacks from every direction. Many of the alien forces struggled to adapt, relying on rigid strategies and conventional tactics. But humanity thrived under pressure. Emma watched as her team responded with innovative solutions. Instead of relying solely on brute force, they used the environment to their advantage, setting traps and outsmarting the enemy at every turn. Where other species might have faltered, humanity's instincts and quick thinking took center stage. The Vokhtar, who had once doubted humanity's ability to handle the situation, now began to watch in stunned silence. The Shintari, usually indifferent to such matters, were now intrigued, their energy pulses fluctuating as they observed the humans' tactics. The simulation grew more intense, but Emma's team held their ground. They didn't just survive. They adapted, evolved, and fought with a passion that no one had anticipated. As the final moments of the simulation approached, the hostile force was finally pushed back. The Vokhtar delegate, who had been so quick to dismiss humanity's potential, was now watching with wide eyes. Even the Zorathian leaders, who had maintained their usual composure, seemed impressed by the way humans had handled the crisis. The simulation ended with the neutral planet saved, and the room erupted in murmurs of disbelief. Emma stood at the podium, her face betraying no emotion. But inside, she knew humanity had made its mark. She had warned the council that when humans were pushed to their limits, they could do the impossible. And today, they had proven it. The galaxy had seen a glimpse of what humanity was capable of, and it was only the beginning. The results of the simulation were undeniable. Humanity had performed far better than anyone had expected. In fact, many of the delegates were still processing what they had just witnessed. The Vokhtar, who had once scoffed at the idea of humanity's potential, were now sitting in uneasy silence. The Shintari, whose energy forms flickered with light, appeared intrigued, almost impressed. Even the usually stoic Zorathians couldn't hide their growing curiosity. The Zorathian leader, Karkor, stood up from his seat, his long silver limbs moving with the grace of someone who had seen centuries of history unfold. He was calm, but the gleam in his eyes told a different story. He had been shaken. Humanity had exceeded all expectations, and the Zorethians, despite their legendary composure, had to acknowledge that something had changed. Ambassador Calloway. Karkor began, his voice smooth but measured. You and your people have shown us that you possess strength. However, strength alone is not enough. You must also demonstrate control. Without control, even the most powerful force can be dangerous. The galaxy has seen many great powers rise and fall, but only those who can master themselves remain. Emma's heart beat faster, but her expression remained calm. This was what she had been waiting for. The moment when humanity's resolve would truly be tested. The Zorethians, though impressed, wanted more. They needed more. Humanity had proven its strength, but now they wanted to know if humans could withstand the pressure of the galactic stage. We understand your concern, Karkor, Emma replied, her voice steady. But control doesn't come from fear. It comes from knowing one's own limitations and embracing them. Humanity may be unpredictable, but we do not shy away from the challenge. We rise to it. The room fell silent as Emma's words settled in the air. The Vokhtar delegate, who had earlier dismissed humanity as a species on the verge of destruction, raised an eyebrow. He had been impressed by the humans' tactics in the simulation, but now it seemed he wasn't so sure. Control, you say, the Vokhtar delegate muttered, his voice filled with skepticism. I have seen the chaos that humans can create when they lose control. You speak of rising to the challenge, but what happens when there are no limits? What happens when you push too far, and there is no one to stop you? Emma knew what the Vokhtar was implying. He was right. Humans could be reckless. In the past, Earth had seen wars that were so violent, they nearly destroyed their entire civilization. There were times when humanity had lost itself, when the Berserkers had taken control of human minds and bodies, driving them to madness and destruction. But that was the past. Humans had learned from those mistakes. They had rebuilt, healed, and evolved. And now, as a species, they had to prove that they could stay in control. We do not deny our past, Emma said, her voice strong. But we have learned from it. Humanity has seen the consequences of losing control, and we have chosen a different path. Our strength is no longer in mindless rage, but in the willpower to fight for what we believe in, to stand together even when the odds are against us. The Shintari delegate, who had been silently observing, suddenly spoke. Their voice was a chorus of shifting energies, their form glowing brighter as they communicated. Humanity's resilience is unlike anything we have seen before, the Shintari said, their light flickering with an almost puzzled wonder. But it is this very resilience that concerns us. We have watched your species rise from the ashes, but how long can you keep it up? How long before you push too far again? Emma turned to face the Shintari, her expression thoughtful. The energy beings were not easily impressed, and their concerns were valid. But Emma had spent years studying human history, the good and the bad. She knew that the only way forward was to embrace humanity's potential without losing control. We will continue to evolve, Emma replied calmly. We will learn, adapt, and grow. As a species, we've made mistakes, but we've always come back stronger. That's why we're here. That's why we want to join the Council. We want to contribute to this galaxy, not as a reckless force, but as a partner. The Vokhtar delegate let out a low hiss, clearly unconvinced. He was not the only one. The Council members had witnessed humanity's strength, but some of them still feared what might happen when humans pushed too far. The galaxy had seen empires fall before, and many wondered if humanity's potential would lead to their destruction, rather than salvation. But then, something unexpected happened. Karkor, the Zorathian leader, raised his hand to silence the room. He was deep in thought, his eyes narrowing as he processed everything that had been said. You speak of control, Karkor said slowly. But control is not something that can be measured in words alone. It must be tested. And so we propose a trial. Emma's heart skipped a beat. The trial. This was the test that would determine humanity's place in the galaxy. We will give you a task, Karakor continued. It will not be easy. It will not be a simulation. You will face a real crisis, and we will see if you can handle the pressure. If you succeed, humanity will have proven its worth. If you fail, we will have no choice but to reconsider your place here. The room was silent, all eyes on Emma. She knew this was the moment that would define humanity's future in the galaxy. She had accepted the challenge in the simulation, but this was different. It was real, and the consequences were far greater. Emma took a deep breath, steadying herself. She had faced challenges before. She had seen humanity come together in the face of impossible odds. This was no different. We accept your trial, she said firmly, looking around the room at the assembly of alien races, and we will prove that humanity is not just a species of power and strength, but of resolve and control. The challenge had been issued, and now humanity's future would be determined by their ability to rise to the occasion. The silence in the grand hall of the Intergalactic Peace Summit was almost suffocating as Ambassador Emma Calloway stood before the council, the weight of their challenge pressing down on her. The Zorethians, Shintari, Vokhtar, and every other species in the room waited for her response, their eyes locked on her, calculating, analyzing, and judging. Karakor, the Zorethian leader, had just issued the final challenge. Humanity's place in the galaxy would be decided through a trial. A real trial, not a simulation. It would test their resolve, their ability to control their strength, and their ability to handle immense pressure. The room was still, the air thick with tension. Emma felt a bead of sweat trickle down her neck, but she remained calm. She had trained for this moment, prepared for whatever was thrown her way. The stakes had never been higher for humanity, but she was determined not to back down. We accept your trial, she said firmly, her voice unwavering. And we will succeed. Karakor nodded, his silver skin glinting under the bright lights of the summit hall. Very well, Ambassador. You will have 30 standard hours to complete the task. A team of your choosing will be sent to a distant world, a planet known as Edinus. There you will face an unprecedented disaster. A massive asteroid is on a collision course with the planet, and it will strike within 24 hours. The task is simple. Prevent the destruction of Edinus. A ripple of surprise spread through the room. Edinus was a habitable world, rich in resources and life, but its position in the galaxy made it vulnerable to such threats. The asteroid was large, far too large for conventional defense systems to stop. It would take more than military strength to prevent the disaster. It would take ingenuity, creativity, and the ability to think quickly under pressure. Karakor's gaze remained fixed on Emma. The clock is ticking. The trial will begin now. You will have no reinforcements from the council. You must rely on your team's resourcefulness and your own judgment. We will observe from here. Emma's mind raced as she absorbed the enormity of the task. Preventing an asteroid from destroying an entire planet was no small feat. And the clock was ticking. But humanity had faced challenges before, many of them far more daunting than this. She took a deep breath, steadying herself. We accept the challenge, she repeated. We will save Edinus. The council nodded, and with a gesture from Karakor, the room darkened, and a holographic map of Edinus appeared before Emma. It showed the trajectory of the asteroid, closing in on the planet's orbit. There was no time to waste. The trial had begun. The scene shifted, and Emma found herself back in the Human Command Center, a sleek, modern facility set up on a distant station near Edinus. A team of experts stood around her, ready to face the challenge head-on. She had chosen a team of engineers, strategists, and military personnel. It wasn't just about strength. It was about bringing together the best minds humanity had to offer. All right, team, Emma said, her voice firm but calm. We have a planet to save. We've got 24 hours before that asteroid hits. Let's think outside the box and find a solution. The team nodded, and the planning began. Captain Sean Rivers, a decorated officer in the Earth military, stood at the front of the group. "We can attempt to destroy the asteroid with high-powered laser weapons," he suggested, tapping on a holographic display. "But it's too big. We'll only be able to divert it, not destroy it." Emma nodded thoughtfully. Captain Rivers was right. The asteroid was massive, and even Earth's best weapons wouldn't be enough to stop it. "We need a way to change its course," she said. "What if we could use gravity to pull it off its path?" Dr. Lena Wu, a scientist and expert in physics, raised her hand. "We can create a temporary gravity while using advanced thrusters. It won't move the asteroid by much, but it may be enough to push it into a safer orbit." Emma's eyes lit up. "That's it. But we need to move fast. If we don't do this right, Edinus will be wiped out. Let's get to work." The team went into action, working tirelessly to design and build the necessary technology. They had a limited window of time, only a few hours before the asteroid would be too close for them to do anything. As the clock ticked down, the team faced one challenge after another. The thrusters that were needed to create the gravity had to be precisely calibrated. If they were off by even a fraction, the entire plan could fail. Dr. Wu and her team of engineers worked around the clock, making adjustments as fast as they could. Meanwhile, Captain Rivers and his military team monitored the asteroid's progress, keeping a close eye on any sudden changes in its trajectory. They were ready to deploy whatever was necessary to ensure the plan worked. But time was running out. With only 3 hours remaining, the gravity thrusters were finally ready. They were attached to a series of satellites that would be launched into the path of the asteroid. The satellites would create a temporary gravitational pull, nudging the asteroid away from the planet. It was a delicate operation, and there was no guarantee it would work. Emma stood in front of the team, her face set in determination. "This is it. We don't have any more time for errors. Once those satellites are deployed, there's no going back. We need to be sure." The team nodded, each person aware of the weight of the situation. They were about to do something that had never been attempted before, a gamble, but one that could save millions of lives. As the final minutes ticked away, the satellites were launched, and the gravity well generators activated. Everyone held their breath as they watched the data come in. The asteroid was slowly being pulled off course, just enough to avoid Edinus. The tension in the command center was palpable as the team watched the trajectory shift, inch by inch. Then, after what felt like an eternity, the asteroid was successfully diverted. The threat had passed. "We did it!" Dr. Wu shouted, her voice filled with disbelief and relief. The team erupted into cheers, but Emma remained calm, her eyes still fixed on the data. "We saved Edinus," she said softly. Humanity rose to the challenge. As the team celebrated, Emma knew that the trial wasn't over yet. The council would be watching, evaluating every move, every decision. But for now, they had proven something important, that humanity could face even the impossible and come out victorious. The atmosphere inside the Intergalactic Peace Summit was heavy with anticipation as the trial ended. Edinus had been saved. The asteroid that once threatened the planet had been successfully diverted, and humanity had proven it could handle the impossible. But the peace was fragile. The council members were still watching, waiting for the next move. Emma Calloway could feel their eyes on her, calculating, judging. Back on the human command station, Emma stood before the large holographic screen, watching as the final data streams confirmed that the asteroid had been deflected. The team behind her was still celebrating, but Emma remained focused. They had succeeded, but the trial was far from over. The council needed to see more. They needed to see humanity's true nature. "We did it," Dr. Lena Wu said, her voice tinged with exhaustion and triumph. "We saved them." Emma nodded, but there was no time for rest. They had just completed the first part of the trial, but the real test lay ahead. The next phase would decide whether humanity truly belonged among the stars. "What happens now?" Captain Sean Rivers asked, his brow furrowed in concern. Are we done? Emma turned to face him. No, we've saved a planet, but the Council will want to see how we handle the aftermath. There's no telling what they'll throw at us next. Captain Rivers nodded in understanding. It wasn't enough to simply succeed. They had to prove that humanity could handle not only the challenges but the consequences of their actions. The stakes were higher than ever. The Zorathian leader, Karkor, stood at the head of the council chamber once again. The galaxy's eyes were upon him. The Shintari pulsed with silent energy, while the Voktars stood like statues, their reptilian faces unreadable. It was clear that the council had already begun evaluating humanity's performance. Emma stepped forward, standing tall before the gathered assembly. The weight of their scrutiny was almost overwhelming, but she met their gazes with unwavering confidence. She had no choice but to prove that humanity was ready for this. The asteroid threat has been neutralized, Karkor said, his voice deep and calm. But the true question remains, what happens after the crisis is over? How will your species manage the aftermath? Emma's eyes narrowed slightly, recognizing the challenge in Karkor's words. The Council wasn't asking about the success of the mission. They were asking about humanity's ability to handle the long-term consequences. The people of Edinis are safe, but their world has been changed. Karkor continued. They are left with the knowledge that the galaxy's newest power could, at any moment, interfere in their lives. How will your people ensure that the galaxy's peace is maintained? Will you use your power recklessly, or will you choose restraint? Emma knew this was the real test. The Council was not only concerned with whether humanity had the strength to intervene, but whether they would abuse their power once they had it. And that wasn't something that could be answered with words alone. We will prove our commitment to peace, Emma replied, her voice steady. We've shown you our strength, but we also understand the responsibility that comes with it. Our actions today were not just about saving Edinis, but about learning how to act when the stakes are high. The Voktar delegate stepped forward, his reptilian eyes glaring with suspicion. And what if your species loses control again? What happens then? You speak of restraint, but we've seen what humans are capable of. Unpredictable and unstable. Emma's stomach tightened. She had expected this question, and she knew it was one she had to answer carefully. Humanity's history was filled with mistakes, times when they had lost control. But that was the past. Now, they had a chance to show the galaxy that they had changed. We are not the same as we were, Emma said firmly. The chaos of the past no longer defines us. We have learned from our mistakes. We know that power without wisdom is dangerous, and that is why we must have the strength to resist when it is needed most. The room fell into silence as the council deliberated. Emma could feel their eyes on her, weighing every word. The stakes were higher than ever. If humanity didn't convince them that they could be trusted, the council would likely shut them out, keeping them at arm's length from the greater galactic community. Karkor raised his hand, signaling that it was time to move forward. The trial is not over, he said. We have seen your strength, but now you will face a different kind of test. We will see how your species handles a true dilemma. The room was filled with murmurs of confusion. A dilemma. What could the council possibly mean? Karkor continued, his voice calm and measured. We will give you a choice. Another planet, Voresh, is in danger. But this time, there is no clear solution. You can either intervene as you did with Edinis, or you can allow the planet to resolve its own crisis. The council will observe and wait for your decision. Emma felt the weight of the decision hang heavily in the air. This was different. There were no clear answers, no simulations, no asteroid to stop. The fate of Voresh would be in humanity's hands, but this time their choices would have far-reaching consequences. What will it be? Karkor asked, his eyes narrowing. Will humanity show restraint, or will you act as though the galaxy is yours to command? The council waited, the tension thick in the air. Emma's mind raced. She had just saved one planet, but now she had to decide whether to interfere in another world's crisis. Would humanity choose restraint, or would they give in to the temptation to act? This was the true test, not just of strength, but of wisdom. And Emma had to make the call. She took a deep breath and turned to her team. We will not interfere. We will allow the people of Vorish to handle their own crisis. The room erupted in shock. The Zorathians, Shintari, and Vokhtar all exchanged surprised glances. Humanity had chosen restraint. They had passed the test of strength. Now they had passed the test of wisdom. Emma looked back at the council, her voice resolute. Humanity is ready, not just for strength, but for peace. The council chamber was filled with an uneasy silence. Emma Calloway stood before the gathered alien representatives, her decision to allow the people of Vorish to handle their own crisis still echoing in the room. The Zorathians, Shintari, and Vokhtar delegates exchanged uncertain glances. Humanity had chosen restraint, something no one had expected. The tension was palpable as the alien leaders waited for the next move. Karkor, the Zorathian leader, leaned forward in his chair, his silver eyes studying Emma closely. You have made a bold decision, Ambassador Calloway, he said, his deep voice reverberating in the chamber. But this choice will not go unnoticed. It has shown us that your species is capable of understanding the consequences of intervention. However, the question remains, are you truly ready for what lies ahead? Emma stood tall, her gaze unwavering. The trial was not over yet. She knew that the council was still skeptical, and their doubts would need to be addressed with every decision she made. She could feel the weight of their judgment on her shoulders. The fate of humanity in the galaxy was hanging by a thread, and this next decision would determine whether humanity's place among the stars was secured. We are ready, Emma replied firmly. But we also understand the responsibility that comes with this power. We will not act recklessly. We will take the time to learn from each choice, to grow, and to adapt. Karkor nodded slowly, his sharp features unreadable. Very well, Ambassador. You have proven restraint, but now we will test your species in a way that is far more difficult than any crisis or dilemma. It is the final test. Emma's heart skipped a beat. The final test. What could it possibly be? The Shintari delegate, whose form flickered with glowing energy, spoke up. Your people have displayed strength and wisdom, but now we will test your integrity. We will offer you something that no species has ever been given. We will offer you a place of power among the stars, a position on the Galactic Council, where your species will have a voice in the decisions that shape the future of the galaxy. A wave of surprise rippled through the room. The Galactic Council was the most powerful organization in the galaxy, consisting of the oldest, most influential species. To be granted a seat at the table was an unimaginable honor, but it came with a price. The Vokhtar delegate's voice cut through the tension. However, this position is not without its challenges. To earn it, your species must demonstrate that you can uphold the highest ideals of leadership, fairness, and honor. You must prove that you can resist the temptation of power and act for the good of the galaxy, not just for your own gain. Emma's mind raced. A seat on the Galactic Council was a dream for any species, but it was also a responsibility unlike any other. The Council could grant immense influence, but it could also bring corruption, conflict, and chaos. Humanity would have to prove that it could wield such power with wisdom and restraint. Karkor's voice returned, cutting through Emma's thoughts. You will be given a test of your integrity. A proposal will be put before the Galactic Council, and your species will have to decide how to vote. The proposal will have far-reaching consequences, and the galaxy will be watching your decision closely. The Shintari delegate added, There are those among us who fear humanity's potential for recklessness. If you choose poorly, if you act out of selfishness or ambition, you will show us that you are not ready for the responsibility that comes with a seat at this table. Emma took a deep breath. The trial had gone from a test of strength to a test of wisdom, and now to a test of character. Humanity's choices would have far-reaching consequences. There was no room for mistakes. I understand, Emma said, her voice calm but resolute. "We will prove that humanity can act with honor and integrity. We will make the right choice, not just for ourselves, but for the galaxy." Karkor gave a sharp nod. "Then we shall see, Ambassador. The proposal will be presented shortly. It is now in your hands." The moment of truth arrived soon after. The holographic display in the center of the council chamber flickered to life, and a new image appeared. It was a star system, rich in resources, and strategically located near the core of the galaxy. The proposal was simple, but its implications were enormous. The system was currently inhabited by a peaceful but isolated species. They were primitive in technology and knowledge, but they had begun to show signs of intelligence. The proposal before the Council was to offer them membership in the Galactic Council. The species would be given the technology to advance rapidly and join the galactic community. But there was a catch. The system was also rich in resources that many species, including the Vokhtar, the Zorethians, and the Shintari, coveted. Would humanity vote to protect the peaceful species and ensure that their advancement was based on their own merits, or would they take advantage of the opportunity and use the situation for their own gain? Emma felt the weight of the decision. It wasn't just about political influence or power. It was about doing what was right. If humanity voted to exploit the species, they would gain resources and power, but they would be taking advantage of a vulnerable people. If they voted to protect the species, they would risk anchoring some of the most powerful races in the galaxy, and humanity's place on the Council could be in jeopardy. The Council was watching. The galaxy was watching. Emma turned to her team, who had gathered around the command table. "This isn't just a vote. This is about showing the galaxy who we are. If we want a place among the stars, we have to act with integrity. We need to protect these people, not use them." Her team nodded in agreement, their faces filled with determination. There was no turning back now. With a steady hand, Emma placed the vote on the Council's holographic display. The decision was made. "We vote to protect the species," she said, her voice unwavering. "We will not sacrifice them for our own gain." As the Council chamber waited for the final tally, Emma knew that this was the moment that would define humanity's future. They had passed every test so far: strength, wisdom, and restraint. But now it was time to prove that they could be trusted with the future of the galaxy. Would the Council agree with humanity's choice, or would they see it as a sign of weakness? The galaxy was watching, and humanity's fate hung in the balance. The silence in the Council chamber was thick with anticipation. Emma Calloway stood in front of the holographic display, her heart pounding as she waited for the final results of the vote. The decision to protect the peaceful species, to prevent them from being exploited for resources, had been made. Now the galaxy's most powerful leaders were about to decide whether humanity's choice was a sign of true integrity or weakness. As the seconds stretched on, Emma felt the weight of the moment. The Galactic Council had been watching, waiting for this very decision. If humanity's vote was accepted, it would solidify their place in the galaxy's future. But if they failed this test, they would be seen as unworthy of the power they sought. Karkor, the Zorethian leader, looked down at the holographic panel before him, his sharp gaze betraying nothing. His people were proud, strong, and had always acted in their own interests. They had little patience for what they might see as human weakness. But had humanity truly shown itself capable of restraint? The Shintari delegate, her form shimmering with ethereal energy, observed the proceedings with her usual calm demeanor. The Shintari had seen many species come and go over the millennia, and they knew the dangers of being too eager for power. But they also respected those who could demonstrate wisdom and self-control. The Vokhtar delegate, his reptilian eyes narrowed with suspicion, was the most uncertain. Humanity had shown strength and restraint, but was that enough? The Vokhtar were a practical people, and they often valued action over debate. They feared indecisiveness, weakness, and the potential for mistakes. The final vote was about to be tallied. The moment of truth had arrived. The holographic display flashed to life once again, and a series of symbols appeared across the screen. Each council member's vote was revealed one by one. Emma's breath caught in her throat. First, the Zorathians cast their vote. It was a simple symbol, a circle encircling a sharp, jagged line. The vote was in favor of humanity's decision. Emma's shoulders relaxed, but she still held her breath. This was only the first. Next, the Shintari cast their vote. A soft, glowing symbol of balance appeared on the screen, representing their approval of humanity's choice. The Shintari were known for their love of peace and harmony, and they respected humanity's willingness to protect the peaceful species, even at the risk of angering other galactic powers. Then the Vokhtar vote appeared. Emma's heart skipped. The Vokhtar had been the most skeptical of humanity's restraint. Their symbol, an image of an outstretched claw, appeared, followed by a series of other symbols signifying their disapproval. A wave of tension swept through the chamber. The vote was now on the brink of failure. Emma's hands clenched at her sides. She could feel the eyes of the council on her, waiting for her to respond. It was not over yet. Humanity's future was still in the balance. Then, with a soft click, the final vote appeared. It was the Shintari who had helped sway the final decision. A new symbol materialized on the display, a human hand extending outward, palm open. This symbol, a gesture of peace, symbolized their acceptance of humanity's decision. Emma's heart surged. The final tally was in. Humanity had passed the test. For a long moment, no one spoke. The council chamber was filled with silence. Then, slowly, Karkor rose from his seat, his expression unreadable. The Zorathian leader stood tall, his powerful frame casting a shadow over the room. "You have surprised us, Ambassador Calloway," he said, his voice booming across the chamber. "Your species has shown strength, restraint, and, most importantly, honor. We did not believe that humanity would make the right choice, but you have proven us wrong." Emma felt a wave of relief wash over her. The weight of the council's judgment had been lifted, and now she could breathe. The Shintari delegate spoke next, her glowing form shimmering as she spoke. "You have earned our respect, Ambassador. Humanity has shown that it can wield power with wisdom and compassion. You have chosen the path of peace over greed, the path of cooperation over conquest." The Vokhtar delegate was the last to speak. His reptilian eyes scanned the room, then fixed on Emma. "We still have doubts, but we will admit this. Your people are capable of making the right decisions. We will give humanity a seat on the Galactic Council, but you must prove yourselves worthy time and time again." Emma nodded, a small but determined smile forming on her lips. She had known this would be the toughest challenge humanity had ever faced. But they had done it. They had earned their place among the stars. The galaxy would no longer see humanity as a threat or an unstable force. They would see them for what they were, a species that could be trusted with the future of the galaxy. "The decision has been made," Karkor declared. "Humanity will take its place on the Galactic Council. Your people are ready for the responsibilities that come with it." As the room erupted into a quiet buzz of approval, Emma turned to face her team. Captain Sean Rivers, Dr. Lena Wu, and the others stood with pride in their eyes. They had all worked together to bring humanity to this moment. The sacrifices, the hard decisions, the long hours of planning and debate, it had all paid off. Emma's thoughts turned back to Earth. She had no doubt that the challenges would continue, that humanity's true test was only just beginning. But now, they had the galaxy's ear. Now, they had the opportunity to build something better, not just for themselves, but for all sentient beings. "We did it," she whispered to herself, a soft smile crossing her face. The galaxy was watching, and humanity had passed the final test. The future was theirs to shape.